Greetings, everyone. In this video, we are going to talk about home rule. Home rule is one of the many unknown or little visions that we can make use of in the fight for freedoms in our nation. David Edwards states home rule depends on the state. In some states, it's a constitutional provision, and in other states, it's a statutory provision. Either way, home rule allows for local self-governance and limited autonomy. Some cities and counties are established as municipalities, and some are established as home rule cities and counties. So in my research, I found in Burton's 4th edition, home rule, autonomy, enfranchisement, franchise, freedom from domination, freedom from interference, freedom of action, freedom of choice, independence, individualism, non-interference, non-intervention, political independence, self-containment, self-derived power, self-determination, self-direction, self-government, self-legislation, self-reliance, self-subsistence, self-sufficiency, self-support, sovereignty, and unlimited sovereignty. Sounding pretty good so far. In Black's Law, 6th edition, home rule is a state constitutional provision or type of legislative action which results in apportioning power between state and local governments by providing local cities and towns with a measure of self-government if such local government accepts terms of the state legislation. And then see also local option. So also it's called local option, and that definition from Black's Law is an option of self-determination available to a municipality or other governmental unit to determine a particular course of action without specific approval from state officials. Local option is often used in local elections to determine whether the selling and consumption of alcoholic beverages will be permitted in local areas. That's a great example. Such is also used in many states to permit home rule elections for determining the structures of local governmental units. Related is a home rule charter, the organizational plan or framework of a municipal corporation, or in our case, we would probably want to say unincorporation, analogous to a constitution of a state or a nation, drawn by the municipality itself and adopted by popular vote of its people. Now, of course, I will include this conversation in the show notes and the links. And I found a really great article on home rule. This one is set in the state of Pennsylvania. And you can go read most of it for yourself, but we're going to say, all right, what did they say home rule is? How much of a say does your local government have in the decisions that govern your daily life? And we've heard, most of us, I'm sure, have been hearing a lot about how important our local government is. So how much of it governs our daily life? And that depends. Pennsylvania allows municipalities and counties to determine the structure and authority of the local government. Municipalities that opt for home rule have the most control. So in Pennsylvania, you might really want to think of the Amish communities, that they are set apart. They have constitutional shields. They have different rules and regulations. Home rule transfers authority over municipal matters from state laws to a local charter that's drafted, adopted, and amended by voters in the municipality. A home rule charter is essentially a local constitution. It sets up the government structure and outlines its authority and its limitations. Under home rule, a county or municipality can do anything that's not specifically denied by the state constitution, the General Assembly, or the charter itself. By contrast, municipalities run by municipal codes, state laws, can only act where specifically authorized by state law. So what is the bottom? Home rule provides local control. It gives the municipal government the ability to craft ordinances and make decisions based on local needs, rather than having to follow a one-size-fits-all state code that's decided by state legislatures. For example, home rule municipalities have flexibility in setting the rate of property taxes and personal taxes for residents. Municipalities have also used home rule charters to ban natural gas drilling. What are home rule states? So there's in Pennsylvania, there's 78 home rule municipalities. And 44 states have provisions for home rule charters. So those states are home rule states. And then there's states that have a combination of home rule and what's called Dillon's rule, which I'll get to in a little bit. And then there's some states that have just Dillon's rule. We want to adopt this home rule, and what are the advantages? Simply put, home rule allows the municipality much more freedom to self-govern, which in turn can be empowering for citizens. It also limits interference from state legislation beneficial on the state level because it frees up the General Assembly to focus on statewide issues. It can be a way to address financial difficulties. And I'm also thinking of education association and our healing associations, the farming associations, as home rule allows a municipality to do different things and protect these associations. There are some disadvantages. Home rule can give a lot of power to local leaders or the loudest voices without much oversight from the state. But I think that we can figure that out in our seek to self-govern, to return to self-government. The charter can be cumbersome. Any change to a home rule charter requires a referendum on a ballot. So you can go ahead and read through this article, and you can also do a search for the states. I'll link that below. Is your state a home rule state, or is it a combination, or like my state of Nevada, is it a Dillon's rule state? If you're like content, please remember to like, subscribe, and share. Recently was think of small rural counties and sheriffs that are operating constitutionally because that's their job. That is really their job, is to stand in the gap between the out of control government and between, so the sheriff is supposed to protect us, our constitutional rights and liberties they're supposed to protect us from the bad guy on the street and the bad guy in government. So they really do stand in the gap. They're sort of the last stand other than ourselves after the sheriff. So if you have a good sheriff and you live in a rural county, it's really worth having a conversation with that sheriff. I just did that in a smaller county nearby, and he agreed. He didn't really know about home rule, but he absolutely agreed. For the example I gave him was, okay, these states are coming up with these laws in regards to education and kids, and that the good example is recently in California, how it is now a law that a teacher, it's against the law for a teacher to tell the parents what's going on with their child in the area of boyhood and girlhood in that area, and really any other issue that should be what the parents' decision. It should be up to the parents what's going on with their children, not the teachers, because it's against the law in California for the teacher to tell the parents what's going on with their children. So I said, all right, then for example, if we wanted to, on a private property, have a faith-based private educational ministry, and the state wanted to interfere, would you tell the state that they are out of their lane, that they're out of their jurisdiction? He said, absolutely, 100%. So I think a lot of this in states that have a combination of home rule or are home rule states, that the combination of home rule, the combination of a constitutional sheriff who will stand up for you, definitely worth having these conversations. You could get a couple people together and have a meeting with the sheriff. They should be happy that you're involved and wanting to meet with them. I tell you about Dillon's rule, is that local governments may exercise only powers that the state specifically grants to them. to determine the bounds of a municipal government's legal authority. So Dillon's rule supersedes our home rule, but not the Constitution. Again, something we're checking out. Piece of case law here I found, and again, go look on when you're researching case law. Doesn't really apply to your private associations because we step outside of that jurisdiction, but we like it when it upholds what we are doing. And this was a case law in California that I will link, of course, in the show notes. The home rule provision, as it has existed in various forms and phrasing since 1896, is best construed as accomplishing two purposes. One, it grants to chartered cities the authority to manage local affairs, and two, it imposes a corresponding restriction upon the power of the state legislature to interfere with or override decisions on municipal matters made at the local level. And it moves on here. We have consistently held, as we stated many years ago, it has always been conceded that the object of the 1896 amendment and its successors was to secure to the municipality that had, under the provisions of the Constitution, adopted a charter for its own government, the maintenance of its charter provisions in municipal matters, and to deprive the legislature of the power by laws general in form to interfere in the government and management of the municipality. In conclusion, it's definitely worth checking out in these areas that are more constitutionally minded with a constitutional sheriff, and that we do have case law that upholds home rule and our rights as citizens. So definitely check it out. Please remember to like, subscribe, and share these videos, and we'll see you in the next video.